I'm Matthew.
And I'm Max.
I'm the digital services librarian.
And I'm youth services clerk.
We're pseudo IT guys today. So, thank you for joining us.
Today we're going to be ripping apart a couple computers and showing you like the different pieces inside.
And Max knows more than me. So, Max, what is this that you're working on?
So this right here is a server, which is basically just a bigger computer. However, this server's probably 10, 15 years old.
So it's not good.
No, if you have an iPhone or like a Texas calculator, that's probably going to be more powerful than this thing.
Let me show them how big that thing is.
Yeah. So just for comparison, this iPhone has more storage, more power than this whole server.
That's
so
wild.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool to see how fast technology has changed over like the past couple of years. Like literally, like every year something new comes out.
Oh yeah. And since this week is Computer Science Education Week, we were taking this opportunity to learn about how computers have changed over time and hopefully get some people and some kids involved in computers in general.
Yeah.
Computer engineering, putting them together, and then even getting into coding. But to code, you need to know what's inside a computer.
Right, so here's one I already kind of pulled apart a little bit, so I'm going to kind of go through some of the pieces.
This is what the inside of a computer looks like.
Okay, so to kind of start off, this is going to be your storage. This is the, I literally just forgot.
Hard drive.
Hard drive, thank you. So this is your hard drive, so this is what's going to store all of your Word files, any games you like to play, all that's going to be stored on here.
Again, for comparison, our phones have more storage space than this hard drive, which is how many gigabytes?
Well, actually, this is quite a large one, but this is 160 gigabytes.
Okay, well,
But half of that's going to be taken up by just the processing system. So if you have like a Word, if you have a Microsoft computer, that program's going to be stored on here, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's next?
So next we've got, let's go ahead and go with memory. So here next we have memory. Now memory's different than storage. They're two different things. Storage is going to like save like your games and your Word files. Memory is like short-term memory. This is going to be what helps to actually get stuff on the screen. As soon as you change a program or you turn off your computer, this is wiped. Storage is never, well, almost never wiped. You can also call this RAM, or random access memory.
How many of those are there in this computer?
So in this computer we have we have 3 right now. It used to have 4, but I pulled one out and I don't know what I did with it. But just for kind of reference, each of these sticks is 1 gigabyte. My phone has, I think, 32 gigabytes of memory. So that's like the difference of like how fast something appears on your screen.
So it tells you how old this computer is just by how many gigabytes of RAM it has.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it has the year on the tag here. But anyway.
Yeah. So to kind of give you a reference, this computer doesn't even have, or this server doesn't even have 1 gigabyte of RAM. At most, I think it's 800 megabytes. Excuse me. So you can really see how fast things have kind of changed.
So this server, you would need about how many? 5? Or was it 10?
5. It needs 1 more. It needs 1 more RAM chip just to equal one of these. to give you kind of reference in size. So this is the newer model. This is the older model.
So you can do a lot more now than we could whenever this thing was.
Yeah, you can do more on your phone than this whole server.
Awesome.
Yeah. So next we have the heatsink. And the processor. So the heatsink actually goes on top of the processor, and there's a locking mechanism which holds it down. Can you see me?
Mhm.
Okay. The locking mechanism will hold down the processor. The processor is like the brain stem of the computer. This is what all the information, all the energy of the computer goes through, right? So this gets really, 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 really hot. And in order to deal with that, you put a heat sink on it. And it basically what happens is this sucks the heat out of the processor, and then there's a fan, which I don't know if you can see. That.
This thing here.
Yeah, and so the fan basically blows through these little vent ports, and it cools down this, which then helps it to suck more. When you get a brand new computer, they will often give you thermal paste, which is going to help to suck that heat out as well. Like, the way I kind of think about it is if you took some raw pasta and you just threw it in a pot with no water, heat does not distribute very quickly. But if you put water in and let that boil, it's going to transfer heat much more efficiently. So just something to think about. Processor, heatsink. Anything else cool in here? That's pretty much it.
Except for the motherboard,
Ah, yes.
which we don't have taken out, but
Yeah, basically the motherboard is, think of it like the highway of the computer. This is what all the information flows through. Ah, there's a
in our pile of junk, we have a broken motherboard. This is what it looks like. So here's where your memory sticks would go. Here's where your processor would go. And that's all that I know.
Yeah, basically just connections for your, like, you're kind of
Oh,
So like these are like your connections to like your screen. These would be to like headphones, and then there is like connections to like a mouse and a keyboard.
so we don't often use the auxiliary inputs anymore.
Yeah, not so much anymore. Now it's mostly wireless.
In the world of Bluetooth speakers.
Yeah. So now I think we'll try and get Matt to pull this newer model apart. We'll see what that looks like.
This will be fun. So this, what was this? This computer is more of a business model.
Mm-hmm.
So something you would see in an office space, and then this one is something you might have had at home.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I think we have one screw there and one screw here.
So on the back of the tower are screws that may or may not get stuck. So they're tiny screws that just holds the metal case around all of the parts. So if you're thinking about this in science terms, this is for the human body, and then we're trying to get to the skeleton. I know Halloween was a couple months ago, but why will this not come up? Oh, that's why.
You got it.
So
Oh,
right
wow.
off the bat, it's not looking the same. Everything is not open. But there's a screw here. But that's for the CD drive, right?
That would be the CD drive, yeah.
And it just,
Oh,
Oh, we
okay.
gotta
I
pull out
see,
that.
yeah. So you gotta pull this whole front off.
there you go.
Okay.
like without its skin.
By the way, these are all already broken, so don't worry about anything.
Oh yeah, they're totally done for. Also, when taking apart computers, you should probably wear protective goggles or glasses, maybe some gloves. If little ones are doing it, gloves. There's some sharp pieces, so definitely don't let a little one work with this unattended.
There you go. So that I've actually never seen a computer look like that.
Really?
Yeah, no, this is new ground for me. I've never seen a fan like that.
We are pioneering here.
Yeah. Okay, so really cool. This is 1 terabyte of memory. So that would be like roughly 10 of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a terabyte's 1,000 gigabytes, right?
Terabytes 1,000. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But still not as much as we could have now. So this computer looks a little bit different than this other one. They're both Dells, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So the fan is right here rather than on the edge like this one was.
Yeah, so that would be blowing air down through these grills right here. And let's see it coming
And that's why you have this opening on the side plate here.
And so this would be 8 gigabytes of RAM. So again, more memory than that whole computer in one chip.
I was thinking this one would be worse.
You know, I thought this one was more.
But we've still got the motherboard and the power supply, and then the processor is under the fan, so we can't see that.
Oh, sure. Oh, wait, oh, yes.
Yeah, the processor.
Process is under the fan.
But we do have a screwdriver.
You can do it, man. I believe in you.
Well, it's plugged in here, so I'm gonna unplug it. Maybe.
Probably.
This is the part where you need to be careful because there's a lot of
A
metal.
lot of sharp edges.
I don't think that one's plugged into the fan.
Good to know.
We should have a theme song.
What would it sound like?
I don't know.
You're the music guy.
Something techno, like Tron.
Yeah, or like iRobot or something, yeah.
I think this. No, it didn't. So if you're still with us and have an interest in computers, I think we will put some resources in the comments after this video to direct you to some places where you can learn about them. There's some places that blog about computer parts and programs like TechRadar. I think you can. So GitHub isn't really a place to look at computer parts, but it is a great place for programmers to go and share their ideas. Max, what are you taking apart right now?
So I'm going to take apart the processor so I can show you how your memory is actually stored on the computer.
What are you expecting to find?
So what a processor basically looks like is a metal disc, kind of like a CD, and there's like a little arm with a laser on it. And so essentially all of your memory is stored on a little disc about the size of, maybe that size.
I got the fan off of this one. There's 4 screws around the end of it that were very resistant to coming off. But then you've got the power cord, which plugs into the motherboard. So that's all this is. Doesn't look impressive, but there's a little bit of residue from the heat glue.
Thermal paste.
Thermal paste. That was close. It's a synonym.
It's close enough.
And then the processor is, lift this up. It's in its own little protective case, right?
Right.
So there's a screw that keeps this little metal thing down. And that's how we get to the processor.
Yeah, so you pull that screw out.
Might need a different size. That's not even a.
What is it? Is it a star?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually been stripped. Let me see if I can. There you go.
Oh, okay, cool. There we go. We got the processor. Without this, the computer's useless, right?
Yeah, without any of the parts I've talked about, the computer's useless.
But mostly the processor.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if this comes out now.
Let's see, this is, what's the Inspiron, the processor type? What is Inspiron?
I think it's an i5.
That means nothing to me, but I hope it means something to you.
Basically, generally, very generally, the higher it's like an i5, i6. Generally, the higher the number, the better it is. For the Intel processors, there's also Ryzen, which makes processors. Those have a completely different naming system. But again, the higher the number, normally the better it is.
Here's something I just thought about. Is there a video graphics card in here?
No. Normally, it would be right here.
Okay.
So probably, so like normally on a motherboard, there's going to be already video processing embedded. You'll add more if you were going to start doing stuff like editing video, or if you're going to be watching, I guess, a lot of Netflix. You could probably have something a little bit higher. In your laptop or your phone, there is already quite a bit of video processing. But if you're going to be doing like a lot of editing and a lot of Photoshop, that's when you want to start looking at adding something.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's what this is in the
server.
in the server. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. I don't know because nothing came up when I put in the serial number. But I'm guessing. That's my theory, and I'm sticking with it.
It's better than what I got.
Yeah.
So basically, the more expensive your computer, the more perks it has, whether it be the video card, the RAM, the storage space, processor. Like if you go to Best Buy and see an i7 with 8 gigs of RAM, I don't know, that's about all I can think of.
Yeah.
Gaming computers use video processing, the video cards,
Exactly. Yeah.
and those are wild things. They've
Yeah.
got so much RAM.
Yeah. A lot of RAM, a lot of processing power. Also, just insane cooling.
It does a lot of work, so it needs all of that that cooling and
Yeah, so anytime they're talking about like speed and stuff, that means that there's a lot more energy and heat going through the computer. So really, just heat is a fancy way of saying energy. So if there's more like more processing power and stuff, you're gonna have to think about how much heat is going to be actually going through your processor, and something simple like this little piece of metal is not going to do it. So video cards, you'll see them with like dual fans on them. Some people will have like tubes of like cooling liquid, normally water, running through their computer to try and get rid of that heat. So yeah, I can't get this thing open.
hard drives are tricky.
Yeah.
But hard drives store a lot of information, so they're better off being tricky.
Yeah.
So what happens if you put a magnet to that?
If you put a magnet to it, basically that's going to wipe the memory. For like like in the state office where my uncles used to work, they would drill holes, like multiple holes through the circuit or through the processor. Yeah, we're talking about computers. I get excited. No, so you'll drill holes through it, and that just means that there's no possible way anyone can get the information off of it. So like if you're getting rid of a laptop and you work in IT or something, that's probably, instead of just like selling your laptop, probably put some holes through the processor just to make sure no one gets a hold of your information.
Because all the digital information is made up of binary code, which is, you know, that sequence of ones and zeros. And that's about as much as I can tell you about that. But it's very hard to get rid of, so if you're ever getting rid of a personal computer or a work computer and you want to make sure nobody can get back in to get that information, put a magnet to it, or, like Max said, drill holes through the hard drive.
That just stops the reader from being able to access the information.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, you can always go to your local tech shop, or even Best Buy, visit Geek Squad, or maybe your internet service provider.
Yeah.
And they'll give you some tips on how to dispose of electronics properly and safely. Especially if you're like selling to somebody that you're not familiar with. But if it's a family member, you're probably not familiar with it that much. Okay?
I'm struggling.
And this is why you need some tools to open a computer.
Yeah. By the way, if you're like working on your computer, you're never supposed to open the processor. That's why it's so hard.
Yeah, don't do all of this that we're doing unless you have a broken computer that is never going to work again.
Alright, there we go. Just some blunt force. So see, this thing right here, that little, not this, this little disc right here, that's what all your information is stored on. And so putting some holes through that, or bringing a magnet to it.
It's very tiny.
It is, yeah, no, this is really tiny. This is about the size of like the disc that would be on a floppy disk, which would hold like one itsy teeny tiny piece of this, like probably not
How many
even like
people here don't know what a floppy disk is?
Yeah, so raise your hands, right?
I mean, I'm fortunate to know, but
The only reason I know is because one of my actual librarian would use them as like hall passes, because that's how useful they are nowadays.
completely useless. They're obsolete.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us in taking apart this lovely piece of equipment. It's scrap metal now.
Yes.
But if you have any questions about computer science, or if you want some resources on how to work on your computer, or if you want to get into coding, then that's what Computer Science Education Week is about. I'll put some resources in the comments once we're done here, and if you want to test your hand at coding, then go for it. On Friday, we will have a virtual hour of code, and you can participate in that by going to www.code.org. And all that is an international program for going to the website, doing an hour of code project, which is laid out for you. You just follow instructions. And we want to promote as many people to participate in that as possible. And unfortunately this year with COVID-19, we can't have an in-person event. So otherwise we would invite you to come in and work on our computers. And I will be there to help you through the code, because coding is something that I find very interesting. But hopefully next year for this education week, we will be able to do an entire coding class. So we invite you to join us in that and share with us any projects that you make. Give us some comments if you have any ideas or websites that you like to frequent, and we would be happy to hear from you. So until next time, bye.
Bye, guys.